Welcome to another episode of the Apex Perspective podcast. Today I have with me Milind Shah, who's currently an engineering leader at AWS. Now, Milind has started off his career as a customer support engineer. Subsequently, he led as an engineering manager at multiple companies, and of course, is now an engineering leader at AWS. Now, Milind, can you tell me a little bit more from your perspective, more about your background and how it led you to AWS?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Aryan, for the invite. I appreciate this.
Mhm,
A bit about my background. So you already went over that a little bit. So
mhm,
I started my professional journey in US as a like a support engineer that you mentioned. It was at a
mhm,
very small company called Vitria Technologies, and that they gave me the first chance to enter the workforce, right? Like right off the college, and I was in San Jose State. I was finishing my master's, and I started my internship over there, and then started learning about their product and started becoming a support engineer over there. What I learned is interacting with the customers, and that transition into my next role, which was more of a test engineer, where I was trying to understand what customer would like to do with my product, and then make sure that I'm able to represent them and use it, and then basically make sure that I break it if needed,
mhm.
and to get to a stage where customers don't need to worry about it. So that's how I started my initial journey, and then eventually got gravitated towards building things. So I became software engineer at Mapr, which was a startup
Mhm.
again, and then onwards, I grew into a technical leadership role where it was more organic, where I was trying to lead a small team, and then basically turned into, hey, there is a people management side of the things where I felt passionate about growing other people,
Mhm.
and I understood what my role is different than an individual contributor, where I am judged based on collective output of all the people that I'm leading. At
Mhm.
the same time, I'm also investing in them so that they grow, and if they grow, that means I'll grow, right? Like that was a
Right.
complete 180 shift when I think about it, because as an individual contributor, you are writing your code, it goes out into the production, you see it working, that's the reward.
Mhm.
Versus over here, you are investing in a project that leads across multiple people, sometimes multiple teams, and that eventually changes into a product that goes out in a customer's hand. That turnaround time may be 3 months, 4 months, more sometimes, multiple
Mhm.
years sometimes as well, and that is a different perspective in terms of what you recognize as a success. That's what I've been doing for last 9 years or so. Different companies, different culture,
Excellent.
and that's about me.
Very good. Well, so at the beginning, you actually started focusing on both understanding the end user of your work, your technical work in terms of the product, and also understanding how to utilize your technical work to create that outcome. Now, for a lot of principal engineers I've had the pleasure of interviewing from Google and from Microsoft and Amazon, a lot of them have a particular point in their career where they understanding the business outcome is very, very important. Now, from you, I can see that you started off very early in your career focusing on both the business outcome and the technical work. So, what was the rationale behind that? Did you already know that before getting into the work field, or how did you decide on making this happen?
So I actually did not decide. This
Mhm,
came as an opportunity where I was working. A part of my internship, I was
mhm,
working on a problem that eventually was going to help the customer.
right.
And when I was working with the other engineering leaders in that group, they actually saw
Mhm,
the potential in me. So I actually was fortunate about finding the right mentors, finding and people that are investing in me so that I can
mhm,
grow early in my career. And that actually helped me a lot, because I didn't know. I was new to the workforce. I didn't know
mhm,
what a typical enterprise software engineering looks like, and at the same time, I needed that helping hand. So I was fortunate about getting a mentor that helped me along the way find my path, and
mhm,
then I figured out how my impact changes the way customers use the
mhm.
product, and how it is helping. So that's exactly how it happened.
Excellent. So working with the engineering leaders early on, you were able to see the dynamic between both understanding your technical work and how it impacts the actual outcome of the product or the business outcomes you're creating with your technical work. The question for you is, how did that change at first? How did that change after really dealing with and understanding the business side of things? How did that change your work and your perspectives on your technical work?
Yeah, definitely. It made a lot of difference, because now if I think about it, if I try to quote Amazon leadership principle, that's customer obsession, which means anything that you are trying to build, at the end, there is a user for it. And if there is a user for it, if you understand that user really, really well, it allows you to build the right solutions. It allows you to build the right trade-offs when you have, let's say, time crunch, and build that part of the process. So you understand that what are absolutely non-negotiable when the customer uses the product, because A, it builds trust in the product. B, if they use it well and they realize, without that core requirement, there is no value. So that basically allows them to. I think I saw a disconnect.
Yeah,
Are
for a
you
slight
still able
second,
to?
I'm still able to hear you. We can continue. I think I had a
Yeah.
small little, but it's okay. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Yeah. So I was saying that if the customers do understand that this, I mean, you understand that the customers have non-negotiable requirements, it makes you understand what are the things you absolutely need to focus on versus what are the things that they are not important for the customers. You can decide whether you do it in the next version, whether you do it not at all, right? Those are the trade-offs are very important that you understand early when you're building something. There are unique situations where customers actually do not know what they want. That is a
Exactly.
different scenario where you really need to go with your gut feeling, go with your research and everything that you have done in terms of the product requirements, and deliver that and collect early feedback so that you can fail fast.
Right. And that's a very good point you just made. There's a phenomenon in business in which customers say they want something, but they actually might need something different. You said you want to go based off of a little bit of intuition, but how do you approach this with what's in your control? How do you approach basically solving that particular issue, fixing what customers think may not know what they need?
Yeah, that's a really good challenge, right? Because sometimes you are in a green field where you are trying to build something. You have some intuition by working with your, let's say, early customer advisory board or your product managers that came up with the requirements. And as an engineering leader, you try to figure out this is really a good thing for the product or a business. At some point, you need to think about, as I said, fail fast. So you typically go out with low investment, but potentially a high return situation where you try to build something small, or like give them a preview of what you are going towards, collect an early feedback that allows you to validate or revalidate your thought process. And then if there is a course correction needed, because once a customer sees a working model of something, that will open up the ideas for them, that will open up more communication channel with them, and more customer feedback that builds into your product development allows you to course correct as fast as possible. So that's typically the process I have seen working really well, even at a startup or even a mature company, but you are entering a greenfield product that nobody has built so far.
So utilizing intuition and then quickly getting feedback based upon whatever input you put into the product. That sounds like a one of the approaches you're taking here. Now, as far as before we continue the conversation about how you lead projects, I am curious about specifically your perspectives on the hiring process. I think that's a very important subject because there's a very unique set of skills that are required to take on certain projects, and I'm very curious. As I know you led as software engineering manager at Meta as well and at other companies, so you've had multiple times to give input on the hiring process, and you learned quite a bit on that regard. So, what do you look for, and what is the condition of the company or project? What impact does that have on you? How you hire?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are multiple layers of it, right? So bare minimum requirement is obviously the technical competency. So good thing about hiring at like a larger companies like Meta or Amazon is there is a set of guidelines given out to leveling of the role, and that helps you figure out what type of level that you want to hire. Typically, if I'm building a team from scratch, I would look for a good mix of senior engineer, mid-level engineer, and junior engineers. That allows me to build the products in a more efficient way, because the senior engineer's role is something completely different than what you expect a junior engineer to do. And if you have a right mix of those people, that allows you to basically build the product in a way that you have the requirements in check, you have the timelines in check, and so on and so forth. And some of them, they are pretty much competing um, priorities and so on, then these people are able to figure that out, right? So if I have to rely on a tech lead that is going to take care of the part that I'm not good at, right? Like, and they are the ones that are going to fill the gap for me.
Mhm.
So I might be good at, let's say, managing the project, managing the resources, managing cross team communication, versus I may not be, let's say, technical deep in one particular area. The
Mhm.
tech lead would come and help me over there, right? Similarly, the tech lead would rely on, like, the next level, mid-level engineers to,
Mhm.
deal with some of the ambiguities and solve that problem. And they are also, the mid-level engineers are responsible for guiding and coaching the junior engineers that are
Mhm.
able, that probably require more hand holding, and they are able
Mhm.
to pull them together, right? So those are the skill set that we look for, and then leveling guideline helps us, right? But that is the bare minimum thing, right? Like, each level has technical competency requirement. Now,
Mhm.
beyond that, what we look for is type of experience that they had in the past. So
Mhm.
typically Amazon relies a lot on, tell me about time, type of a question. Those are behavioral questions that tells us, walk me through a difficult problem that you led and tell me what are the trade-offs you made, what are the corners you cut, what are the things that you failed at. Because
Mhm.
failing is fine as long as you learn from it and you don't make the same mistake again. So those
Mhm.
are the things we look for in the examples, and we want people that are willing to take the chances, willing to take
Mhm.
the failures, learn from it, bounce back hard, and then be successful. So that's the next layer. And then the third one that I look for is the culture fit, right?
Mhm.
So
Of course.
Amazon, Meta, they have their own unique culture. Amazon goes by their leadership principle. Meta has their core foundation values that they go after, and we have absolutely try to figure out that if this person comes this today on this team, how are they going to operate? And typically we
Mhm.
hire for the company, not hire for the team. So we always look for those company value alignment for the candidate as much as
Mhm.
possible. Yeah.
And from your perspective, besides the technical requirements and having the bare minimum met, when you're conducting interviews, how much value do you put on thought process versus the outcomes they can produce in the moment?
If I have to compare the thought process versus the technical competency, I would say pretty much half and half. So the
Mhm.
technical competency is, as I said, like, it's a bare minimum thing. It's a foundation layer.
Of
Without
course.
that, you're not going to be successful, and there is a lot of heavy lifting for other engineers if you are not technically sound. But on the flip side, the other aspect is also important, because as a software engineer, you are expected to look at the ambiguity in the problem, come up with a solution, and try to convince other people that why your solution is the solution to go for. And once you are there, you are able to solve that problem. So
Mhm.
end-to-end execution is important as well. So those are the things I would say, like, it's pretty much a 50-50 for me.
Right. Excellent. And then when you went into people leadership, because that's going to be a part of that's a part of what you've been doing for a long time. When was your first approach to people leadership, and how has that changed over time as far as what you see is the most effective way to lead?
um Trying to parse that question a little bit more. So
Yeah,
could you tell me more about
of course.
leadership today versus, like, let's
So
say, 9 or 10 years back?
yeah, so one of the things I was going to say is that there are different leadership ways to utilize leadership. There's an authoritative way. There are ways where there's a more democratic way to do it. And
Yes.
my understanding from a lot of C-suite executives I've interviewed, that changes based on the circumstances of the company, right? These different leadership styles don't stay uniform throughout the entire period of time. So knowing that and given your experience leading multiple teams, how do you approach leadership? Does your leadership style, does it stay uniform, or does it change depending on the situation? How do you approach it?
It definitely changes with the situation. So
Mhm.
I have a couple of examples for that. Like, one
Mhm.
is the current situation, if I can think of. That one is more democratic as well as more service leadership style. So where I am pretty much have a full blown team which knows how to operate even if I'm not there, right? So
Mhm.
they are very self sufficient. They are, and it's a dream team in that sense, right? Like, because
Right.
the day you are not available in the office and nothing requires you, and things basically get done automatically, that's a dream
Yeah.
team, right? So I'm fortunate to have that today. And at the same time, if I think about my past experience, there was a time when I was working at the entity security, and we were pretty much building out the team from scratch.
Mhm.
There were some other challenges in terms of the geolocation. So the team was actually divided in the Bay Area and Nebraska, which was like
Hmm.
Omaha, Nebraska, and that required a lot of cultural differences. Also, the team came from very traditional background from working on like Oracle databases and wanted to move to a newer architecture. That was a way different challenge, and at that time, I had to be very prescriptive about or authoritative, if you can think of
Yeah.
it, where what type of hiring we do, what type of
Hmm.
goals we set for the team, what are type of deliverables we want to go for, how aggressive we want to be, and if we don't do it, what are the consequences, like how do we fall behind in terms of the competition. So those are the things I had to get like very direct channel with leadership when I'm talking about director and VP level direct conversations, where I had to sit down with them and then have them convinced on the vision. So at
Hmm.
that point, the team building was more like I had to assign each and every person what are they responsible for and why, and I had to
Hmm.
focus on why more and more. And it
Hmm.
at that point it was more prescriptive, it was more authoritative, that here is your goal, I need to see this
Hmm.
in a X week time frame, and so on
Hmm.
and so forth. It turned into a little bit of a micromanagement, which I hated, but it
Right.
was needed at that time, and then I had to step back once the team grew and let them continue on their own.
So it depends on what's needed in the situation. Now, you said a very key thing about culture. Now, I'm not sure if you had to lead teams that are global, but if you study the mergers and acquisitions from investment banking, a lot of the reasons for unsuccessful mergers is due to the fact of clash of culture. Now, I
Yeah.
don't know if you've had those experiences, but how would you approach specifically leading teams that are global?
Yes, that is definitely the challenge. I can again go back to the entity security example. We actually
Hmm.
had um, three different subsidiaries of entity merge into a
Hmm.
single subsidiary, and
Yes.
it was a very difficult situation because we had a team in Australia, we had a team in
Hmm.
Sweden, and we had a team in US, right?
Yeah.
And all three different companies that this company acquired, so they came with
Yeah.
their own microculture, and then in addition to that, on top of that, they had to come together as a single team. So it was a significantly large like a transition for them, and it was
Certainly.
difficult for some of the team members as well, because they did not see aligning with the new vision, they did not see aligning with the new mission. And at that time there were situations, hard decisions that we had to make, where we had to pick and choose the people that were aligning, and
Hmm.
others would either move out to other projects and initiatives, or they would probably move out of the company. So those are
Hmm.
very difficult situations to deal with when there is an M&A.
Right, and those are some one of the most difficult situations that occur. I think they cost lots of money for both companies. It does take lots of time, so that's why that was a question I wanted to ask you. But as a concluding question, I would love to ask really about your perspectives on when it comes to leading these projects. When you have these new initiatives being set up, what do you what is your process when you have new projects assigned to you? Do you start from the end business outcome and then reverse engineer to what needs to be done technically, or how do you typically do it?
um Typically, yes, I still look for the end outcome. I start reverse
Hmm.
engineering. Typically, I need to know what are we building and what are we delivering, who are the key
Hmm.
customers, why we are doing it,
Hmm.
and typically that's the process we go for. I can give you a quick example of what Amazon does.
Yeah.
I think this is a well known example, which is Amazon typically writes a PR FAQ. PR FAQ is a press release and frequently asked questions, which is typically, if I'm launching this product today, what would my press release gonna look like? And it would be more like, we launched this feature, here are the key differentiators for this feature or a
Hmm.
project or a product, and here is why the customers would love it, here is what some of our customers are saying about it, and here is the frequently asked question. Is it available in all the regions in AWS? Is it available globally or certain part of the customers, and so on and so forth, right? Like, and there are technical challenges. So what that document does is puts you in the future, X months or X years out, and
Hmm.
basically envision that if this product is launching, what would it be? And that allows you to be in the shoes of customers, that allows you to be in a situation where you understand the product requirements very, very clearly, and
Hmm.
understand the why very, very clearly. Because without that, we are not able to build the right thing.
Right, and it won't be aligned to exactly what the outcome should be or what the long-term intended result would actually be. So I can appreciate that perspective. Now, what we'll do now is go ahead and shift this conversation a little bit more about you, Milind. And the first question I have for you is, what is something about your life or about you that you wish more people knew about?
Okay, let me think about it.
It's actually one of the more difficult questions I've asked guests usually.
Yeah, I have a hard answer. This is a personal one, so let me go over that.
Sure.
Not that many people know about this, and especially not in my professional circle, they know about
Hmm.
this. This is personal, but I dealt
Hmm.
with gambling addiction in the past, which was
Wow.
about 6 years or so, where I was pretty much a compulsive gambler. And today I am at a place where I am 7 years plus sober. So I just celebrated 7 years in June. And that one is not very well known. It basically created a lot of turmoils in personal life, professional life, because the only thing that I was passionate about was gambling rather than
Wow.
growing myself, professionally. So it basically put me back, give me a setback in terms of my personal growth, a lot of churn in the personal life as well. But I'm happy that my family is with me, everyone stick behind and help me come out of this. And there is a program that I'm part of as well that helped me along the way. So this is very
Wow.
personal, but I'm at a point where I'm not ashamed of it. I know
Mhm.
it was like a bad thing that I did, or like a bad phase of my life, but I'm at a place where I can accept and move on.
Well, addiction is the reason why I actually became severely obese at 240 pounds. So I think being addictive and obsessive has its consequences, but also has its massive benefits. You can
Yes.
leverage that to be meant for a good purpose as opposed to a bad one. So I can really appreciate that you said that. And I was really curious, what was the realizing, what point did you realize that you needed to make a change, and how did you make that change?
I could not hide that anymore. I think that, I
Hmm.
mean, financial pressure was one aspect of it, but at the same time, I was not happy with the way I was lying compulsively with that,
Hmm.
and also not happy with how I was living my life. I was not paying attention to my personal health, not paying
Hmm.
attention to anyone else within the family, not building my relationships,
Hmm.
nothing outside the work or within the work at all. So I realized that this is way beyond when I started like
Yeah.
gambling normally, right? Like when you
Hmm.
say normally is like you walk into a casino once in a while and gamble and come out, right? Versus you have to go there once, twice, thrice a day, right? That's a
Hmm.
completely different situation. Financial part was the easiest part that I could recover from. The way I realized after 7 years is the damage that I did to my relationships,
Hmm.
the relationships that I messed up, and obviously the time that I lost that I'm not never going to get back, right?
Hmm.
um I think those are the biggest things that now I realize that I could have done differently.
Well, you turned it around. I think that a lot of people may not take responsibility and may let this continue happening. So it's very good for you that you took responsibility and you made the change. That's very difficult to make. That I don't think a lot of people have it in them to do. So I can appreciate that. So what I'll do now is go ahead and share a very concise perspective regarding health and fitness, and then we'll go ahead and conclude the podcast with your plans for this year. So the primary problem I'll just attack is really the main reason I would say as to why someone could not make a successful transformation, and that's really about keeping the approach long term. So as you know, Milind, a lot of my audience are entrepreneurs and executives and other technical leaders. So people who have time that's constrained. And the biggest issue you can see here about adhering to an approach of long term is the fact that a lot of these approaches are location dependent, meaning you have to go into one fixed location like a gym or like a studio, and the ability to adhere to something like that when you're traveling, when you're potentially stuck in the office the whole day or at home the whole day doing work, that's going to be a lot harder to adhere to. And the more consistent times that you miss going to the gym are the same times you miss the progress you should be making, and eventually you may not actually get to the goal. So restructuring from the root is really what you want to be focusing on, which is the actual approach itself. And what I focus on is building something that's location independent and that adapts to your schedule, as opposed to you making time for it in your schedule. And that's what's going to be the difference maker between you being able to adhere to the approach long term and getting results, and then you versus not being able to adhere to the approach and then being inconsistent and never getting to the goal at the end. So what I would focus on prioritizing in terms of movement is something like step count. And that's something I always talk about, because you can do that literally while you watch this podcast. You can do that while you're traveling, and anywhere there's a ground underneath you, like I've said plenty of times, you can literally be doing it while you're taking that phone call, while you're potentially in a different country. And that's the idea, is prioritizing an approach that adapts to where you go and where your schedule is. So that's the idea. And again, this is what I've used to lose over 70 pounds and keep it off. So hopefully it gives a different perspective to what's been traditionally told, and one that hopefully is valuable to the audience. So what we'll do now is go ahead and conclude the fitness conversation and go ahead and go into Milind's plans for this year.
Absolutely. So since we are talking about fitness, that is one of my goals. I already lost 25 pounds already. So
Nice.
I was 227. I am close to 200 now. And my goal is to go 175. So that's a journey that I'm continuing. I'm part of a program where I'm holistically looking at the health, where eating, macronutrients, sleep, meditation, exercise, water intake, everything is measured. Pretty much. So if I think about my compulsive nature, right, like I think I'm now trying to become compulsive about my health and prioritizing that as number one thing. It actually did started seeing or showing more impact on my personal life, because now I'm feeling definitely more energy. You already know this, that when you lose weight and then you are more energetic, it shows up in other places, and that's something I've been personally noticing. My caffeine intake is pretty much zero, and in addition to that, like afternoon wear offs in the energy and things like that, they are no longer happening, and I'm typically excited about finding that slot where I can actually exercise. So those are the definitely positive changes, and then that's one of my goals, personal goals, to lose some weight.
Very good. And Milind, where can people learn more about you? Is LinkedIn a good place to learn more about you and the work you're doing?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not too much social in terms of like other social medias and things like that. LinkedIn would be the best, and they can reach out to me on LinkedIn, and one-on-one conversation is where I thrive, rather than doing like a large audience conversation or anything like that.
Okay.
So definitely the LinkedIn is the best.
Excellent. Well, Milind, thank you for joining me on the podcast. It was a pleasure to have you on.